Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I'm going to show you a bunch of different ways that you can use stencils and masks, and this is what I'm talking about here. These little stencils that have the innies and the outies, they're kind of fun, they're very simple. You might have something like this in your stash, and they're really, really versatile. This video is brought to you by TopFlightStamps.com. They're celebrating Christmas in July, so make sure you check out the video description for coupon codes and deals that are going on. So here are the cards we're going to make today, and honestly, I discovered making these just by playing with my materials. So I highly encourage you to grab your supplies, sit down, and just play and see what you can come up with. So we've got this cute Christmas tree card. I didn't sit down and intend to make this, but it happened. I have this fun reindeer card, which was so fun to grab, some ink sprays and other things I hadn't used in a while. I have this ornament, which was really fun to make, and just use cardstock. I mean, just white cardstock. That's all you need, and a pen. Maybe a couple sparkly things if you want. This one here, again with a tree, which I think the tree is going to come out a lot because you can use that year-round. And just some old embellishments that I had lying around. I'm going to show you that torn paper technique because it's a lot of fun. This one here, I had meant to do this card, but I made a mistake and I didn't put my Christmas tree stencil down, so I had this strip and then I just set it aside. I thought I'd probably end up trashing it, but I ended up making another card out of it. These stencils are just fun and versatile, and this was actually, I had just, after spraying my ink on the previous reindeer card, I just smushed that onto another piece of cardstock. I thought, oh, that's a bummer, that doesn't look very good, and I was going to toss it, but I started playing with it and ended up with this card. Now, these might not be the most beautiful cards you've ever seen, but they're certainly pretty enough to send, I think, and you always need more Christmas cards. And this one, again, it was another mistake. When I was stamping, I layered things up wrong, but I thought, you know, it's kind of too pretty to throw away, so I made another card with it. So please sit back, enjoy, and learn how to use your stencils and masks in maybe some new ways today. Let's start crafting. The first technique I'm going to share with you today is the faux paper technique, and all you got to do is just tear a piece of paper and lay it down over the cardstock that you're working on. Now I'm going to use this word block stamp here to get some sentiments on my card, and then I'm simply going to ink over that. And I love how this gives you the look of a piece of torn paper on your card. And I'm just using a ink blending brush and some red ink. You could also use a sponge for this, or you could even use a spray ink. Now I forgot that I wanted to layer up a tree on this card, so I'm going to save that background for something else, and we're going to try this again. So I put my mask of my tree down first, then I put my torn paper, now I'm stamping over it because I wanted that tree to appear to be in the front of everything. But never throw away those mistake pieces because you'll probably find a use for them before you're done. Now I'm going to ink over the entire thing just like I did before, but since I have the tree mask down, I'm going to have this white space underneath where the tree is. And this is really handy because, and you can see I shifted the paper a little bit and inked a little bit more, so I got that almost like torn, you know how you see the core of the paper sometimes? That's what I wanted to get. And now I took the other side of that piece of paper I tore and put that down to protect the area that I inked. Now I'm going to stamp over there with this big snowflake background stamp, and I want to do some heat embossing. I want to make kind of like a snowflake resist there. So I'm just putting on some clear powder. Clear embossing powder. I have removed my mask because you do not want to heat up those masks, or you could melt them because they're plastic. And I am going to heat up my embossing powder here. So it's really hard to see because I did clear ink on white paper and clear embossing powder, but you'll be able to see that when I do my next step here. I find that layering and building and masking and stenciling is just really fun, and it gives you a lot more bang for your buck. It can look like you have many layers on a card that is one layer, and it can save a lot of money, and you can get a lot of versatility using supplies you already have at home. Now I thought it'd be fun to do like an ink brayering over here, and you can see that my snowflakes are resisted. Now you're also going to see that because of the thickness of the mask, the brayer won't go right up to the paper, but that's fine because I'm just using this blending brush to blend out the ink off my mask and onto that background paper. And you could also use a rag to wipe off any leftover ink that you have. I saw that my my ink skipped a few spaces, so I was just kind of going in and filling in. So now I've got this white area and I want to color the tree, so I'm just doing that with some light green ink and shading it with some darker green ink. Now you could stamp over that, you could do whatever you want to decorate the tree, but I thought it'd be kind of fun to take some white acrylic paint and just kind of give it some snow. You could use texture paste for this. You could use liquid applique would be really pretty because you could puff it up. But I thought the paint would be fun, and now I'm gonna just glitter it. And I'm using this glitter duster, and this is, I do find that I enjoy this, but man, is it messy. So if you've ever thought glitter was too neat and you don't like that, then get the glitter duster because it is definitely messier. I actually think this is best for like doing ornaments or something where you've got like a lot of area to cover and you want just a fine coat of glitter, but it is kind of fun to squirt glitter on things. So I was using that. And then I decided that I would give my tree a pot, and I just painted it in with some brownish red paper artsy paint. So for this next use of our masks and stencils, we are going to do some spraying, and I've just put this little reindeer down. And what I've done to keep these masks in place is just ball up a little piece of tape and stick it on the back and stick it down that way. You could spray the masks with some repositionable spray if you want to, and then that will last a few uses, but I just had this tape on my desk and I thought I would use it. I'm using some Distress Oxide sprays because they're something I've had in my stash. I don't use them enough, and I thought they'd be kind of fun for this technique. And I wanted to not waste the ink on my masks, so I thought I would just kind of press that down onto something else. So stay tuned for that. I wanted to dry this so it didn't smear before I got to the next step, and then I'm spritzing on some water, and that's going to give it this kind of two-tone effect. This is regular cardstock. It doesn't have any coating on it or anything. I noticed some cardstocks work better than others for the distress technique, like watercolor paper in Bristol works really well because it's got a sizing on it, whereas regular cardstocks don't work quite as well, but you do get somewhat of an effect. Now I'm just using some caramel colored ink to ink up the body of the reindeer and some black on the hooves and the antlers, and it just kind of makes it pop against the background. Now I'm taking that mask that I said before that we were going to try to save the ink, and I'm pressing that on another piece of cardstock, just rubbing over it really well and trying to get that ink to transfer. Look at that. That was kind of a bummer, but don't you worry. We're going to find something to use that card for, but I'm going to set it aside for now. Just like I said at the beginning, don't throw away any of your mistakes yet because you'll probably be able to work them. So I put the mask on top, back over the first thing that we sprayed, and I stamped my my snowflake design again, and I'll link all of these down below. And all of these Christmas and winter themed products are 25% off this month at Top Flake Stamps, so if you're curious, make sure you grab them. I also put on some embossing tinsel and heat embossed that just to give it a little bit of iridescence. So here I thought it'd be fun to try doing many trees, and I stamped the sentiments on top and just kind of inked the edges. I accidentally hit my stamp in the darker ink to get the edges, and I regretted it, so I just went over and added some darker ink to make it blend. Nothing is a mistake that you can't fix for the most part, so if you're not happy with the way something looks, just keep going. So after doing that first tree, I put the mask on that, and then I started inking up some trees around it. I found this is a great way to kind of build a forest and give it a really full, pretty look. And this doesn't have to be for a Christmas card. You could do this for any sort of like a camping themed scrapbook page. It would work really well. Like do that as a border. That would be so pretty. There's many different uses for this. So I'm definitely going to be not keeping that tree stencil and stamped with, Christmas items. I could definitely use that year round, I think. Jumping back to the mistake deer, I decided to grab the stencil, put it over that failed print, and ink it with brown. Then I decided to add a background, so I am inking up with blue, but what I did was I took a circle punch and punched a scrap of paper in a circle and put that on my paper, and then I tore a piece of paper to be like a hill to protect it, to make it look like snow, and I just inked over that. And now I'm going to do some spraying. I'm adding some shimmery blue spray. I'm going to add some shimmery pearl spray, different things like that to give it some funkiness. I added some Distress Oxide and blue on that too, just for another tone. Now when I remove those masks, you're going to see I have the snowy hill and the moon, but the snowy hill needs to be a little bit different. It needs to have something to make it look different from the moon, so I added some ink just with my dirty ink brush, and I sprayed on some pearl, just white pearl spray. And then to give the whole thing kind of like a snowstorm appearance, I'm going to spray on some just white Dilutions spray. And I thought I ruined it, but then I'm like, well, I just quickly blotted it off the deer and decided to let it dry and work on something else. So I'm working on 7 cards here. I recommend having a bunch of paper cut and just play. And, you know, when you get stuck, work on something else. So I made, making some background paper here. I made one that was snowflakes and I inked over it with blue. This one I made with all the sentiments. And I'm doing another one with snowflakes in green and inking it over with green. So I'm basically made a couple pattern papers here. So what I'm going to do here is make a 3-dimensional bow, and I'm also going to make an ornament. So for the ornament, I just kind of centered the frame over the Merry Christmas because I thought that would be cute to have that showing, inked over it, and now I'm cutting it out. Now I could have been a little bit more conservative with my paper and done it over the edge and picked another sentiment so that I could have got more ornaments, but I did end up using that pink paper for a few other sentiments, so it didn't go to waste. But keep that in mind as you're working. So what I'm doing here is I'm tracing the bow in the middle of that paper. Okay, I'm cutting out the bottom of the bow, and here I'm going to make a 3-dimensional bow embellishment here, just out of paper. So I folded in the edges around the bow and then cut it out, so I'd end up with a 3D bow, kind of like the dies that you can buy, but this is, you know, it's cheaper. I put some foam tape underneath the middle of the bow there so it would pop up, and there I'm going to set that down with the ornament and make a little bit of a 3D effect. And then while I had that out, I remembered that first piece of paper that we did that I thought, oh shoot, I made a mistake. I thought, well, why don't I do a little stencil collaging here and make myself a card front that can work. So I started off by doing the green bow, then I put the mask over that, and I put the stencil of the ornament on top of that, and I am inking the ornament, and I'm leaving it light in the center. I'm using a saffron ink, and now I'm using some of that caramel color I used on the deer, and I'm adding that around the edges, and this is going to look like kind of a metallic frosted Christmas ball. And I think that's a really nice 3-dimensional look. It makes sure that I'm not wasting that paper, and it looks very Christmassy, and it definitely will do the trick for a card. I love how 3D that looks, and that's a look that you get with stencils. And keep in mind that you might have stencils in your stash already that will work for this. Sometimes when you die cut things out on your die cut machine, you end up with leftover papers that can be used as stencils. It won't be as durable as a purchased stencil unless you cut it out of plastic, but you can definitely use that. Now I used some gray ink to shade around the stencil to give it more of a 3D effect, and now I'm cutting some sentiments out of that leftover paper from that other ornament that I did. I thought this one that said Season's Greetings would be really cute. I'm inking it up with red so that it will look good with the background, and now I'm trying to figure out what else I want to do. So I wish I had adhered this mask down, because it was moving around and I was having a really difficult time with this. So I have a kind of a patchy background, so I was kind of bummed at this point because I'm like, oh no, shoot, I ruined it. I liked the way it looked before. There's a lot of moments like that during the card making, and when I feel like that, I set it aside and I work on something else, like these focal points. I stamped this big Merry Christmas. This is a Quetzalcraft stamp. All these stamps are from Top Flight Stamps, and I'll link them down below. I stamped it with VersaFine Clear and inked it up with red then added red embossing powder, and it really popped and looked fantastic. So I'm going to die cut those out, and we'll use them later when we start putting our cards together. So here I knew I needed that deer to pop a little bit more, so I put the stencil back down and just added some more ink. So just keep playing. If you're not happy, it's not done yet. That's the only thing you need to remember. And I have got a trick for you here I'm going to show you in a minute. Oh, I can't wait to share it, but I don't think it's coming up yet. I had to have Jason edit this because it was like crazy. It was crazy. So long, so many techniques. I wanted to give this deer like a jingle bell collar because I love the sentiment Jingle All the Way. I thought it'd be so cute, but I didn't have any little jingle bells. And if I did, they'd be too thick for a card. So I just used little gold brads, and I just opened them up in the back. Now this little needle tool I got at the Dollar Tree. It was a 2-pack for $1. I just wanted to mention that because you always need those little needle tool bone folders. Super handy and super cheap. So there's where I left it, and I thought, oh, I wish I had a red mat, but I didn't want to cut a big piece of cardstock. But I did have some of my smaller matting layer cardstock, so I cut it into strips because it was the exact same size as this. It wasn't big enough to mat it, and then I just glued it to the back. So you can build a frame like this and conserve your paper, use up those little scraps, and I just thought this was the neatest trick, and I'm going to do that a couple times on different cards. So all you do is cut your paper into strips, put it on the back. It's great to use up those, offcuts of cardstock too that you might have next to your paper trimmer, and there, you're not even going to know that it's not a full sheet of cardstock back there. And I just mounted that on a navy blue card base, and added my sentiment. I put a little red rhinestone on the nose to make him Rudolph instead of just a generic reindeer, a generic flying reindeer. I had to make him Rudolph, and added my sentiment. And just for a little extra bling, I'm using a Jelly Roll Stardust pen. I like these a lot because they just give you a hint of gold glitter with nothing, no color other than the glitter, and they don't seem to clog. I've had this one going for a couple of years and it works so well, and it just gives you a little bit of sparkle, which I thought was so cute. Now for this card, I just used that blue paper we made, put it on a lime green base, and I'm just gonna draw a line for an ornament hanger. That's all I'm doing. I've got an opaque metallic gold pen. I always get these pens in like, kits and things, and then I never think to use them, but this is a perfect use for them. So I just drew a line down straight in the middle at 2.5, no, 2.25, right? Is that right? With 2 and 1/8. How wide are these cards? I've completely forgotten. And then I colored the top of the ornament to be like the ornament hanger. And then I just glued my 3D bow down on top and added the sentiment and a few rhinestones. And this is a really quick and easy card. It's so cute, and it will mail pretty flatly, so you shouldn't require extra postage, which is really important when you're mailing like 50 Christmas cards, right? Or more. This one was kind of fun. I really love the messy, inky cards. They have a very special place in my heart. I did that same matting technique here so I could conserve my cardstock, and posted it on a hunter green or Christmas green backing. I'm using one of these bright embossed Merry Christmas circles. I love that because you can cut it out with any circle dies that you already have, or by hand because it's a pretty easy color, easy shape to cut. And then I thought I would add some of these square kind of nail head brads to each corner. I really enjoy using brads. I don't get too fancy with my embellishing. You certainly can if you want to. I find that I have a hard time not making my cards real gaudy when I use a lot of embellishments. So brads, I can't get into too much trouble with brads, so I use those a lot. And there's the yellow foam squares for all you OG Frugal Crafter fans. They're still going. They multiply, they breed, I'm telling you what. And I'm adding this on the bottom of the card. It's sweet, it's simple, but I really like the way it turned out. And I love that hint of glitter from the embossing tinsel that I used on that background. I love how it's kind of crusty and distressed in here and there, and I just really like it. And I think this one's my favorite. I really liked the tree collage. I think it'd be cute to do in like rainbow colors. There's a lot of options for that. I think it'd be really fun. That'd be a really fun stencil because you can decorate it like a Christmas tree. You could do camping, whatever. It's just so cute. So I thought I'd just take a piece of gold lame ribbon and tie it. Now, a tip for saving your ribbon is to work off the spool. Don't trim it till after you've got it tied onto your card, and then you don't have any waste. You just have a teeny tiny little bit of like offcut from the first end, and it makes your supplies last a lot longer. This is simple, but really, what more do you need? And I love having a bunch of different cards because then you can tailor your cards to the recipients. And I just thought that was simple and, really, really cute. Now this one, again, was our simple card that was going to be a throwaway, but we ended up saving. I find that when you have a simple card, just taking a white gel pen, maybe adding a few like shiny spots is really all it needs. And, it's simple, but it's so cute, and it's definitely going to stand out on somebody's mantle, I think. Now for this first tree that we did where we put the acrylic paint snowflakes on it, I poked in a star brad for the top of the tree, and then I used some leftover colored rhinestones that I had to decorate the tree for like Christmas balls. And I think that really dressed it up because I was really kind of bummed out with how that one was coming out. Once I started decorating the tree, I was pretty happy with it. If you had any present stickers or embellishments, that would also be really cute under the tree. You can totally use what you have and make it your own, because we all have different stuff. And I think it's really great to use up the things you have in your stash and make something beautiful with something that you might not have even noticed before. And I just put that on kind of like a Christmas green card base and called it a day. I think that looks pretty cute just the way it is. This was another mistake card. I had forgot to put the tree mask down before I stamped my snowflakes, but I still thought it was cute enough to use. So I simply added a strip of gold lame ribbon, because I had it on my table, and mounted it on a red piece of cardstock. To finish it off, I added one of those stamped sentiments, and I think it's cute enough to send. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up before you go. So please tell me in the comments below, what's your favorite card? What technique did you like best, and are you going to try it yourself? If you want any of the supplies I used today, make sure you check out the links in the video description, and say thank you to our sponsor, TopFlightStamps.com. They find the coolest stamps and stencils from all over the world and bring them back to us here in the United States so we can have fun playing with them too. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting!